creators, welcome back to the club. The Black Creators Club is your go-to resource for all the Black movers and shakers in Hollywood, reactions to the latest pop culture tea, and of course our own entertainment pursuits. I'm your host, Ebony Chapman. I'm here with my fellow media maven, Akila Franco. How are you?
I'm doing so well.
Good. Good. I'm so excited. Yes. This episode we have a lot to talk about. So we're going to be talking about Megan Thee Stallion versus Erica Banks and that whole label debacle. We're going to be talking about Ebony K. Williams being the first a lot of first blacks out on this episode today, okay?
Right.
First black New York housewife. We're also going to be talking about the baby and the loss that he just suffered. And then we're going to get into everything the election and voter suppression. So guys, stay tuned because it is a whirlwind. But before we get started, Akila, tell me, let's do our Maven check-in. What's going on with you this week?
Girl, this week has been, it's been interesting. I was thinking through, I was like, okay, what really happened this week? You know, you get sometimes to the end of the week and you don't even realize how much you've accomplished or how little you may have accomplished. And this was one of those weeks for me. And then it just had me thinking like, this is the pandemic. Like, this is what we're living in. It's not necessarily where every week it's gonna be like up and up. So I'm gonna have so much going on, so much to do, so many options. I don't know, what was that?
Right, okay, sorry, I was in the apartment. What was that?
Or like, what's going on? But this week has been kind of honestly one of those, I'm happy it's the end. I'm happy to get started on something new, but it's not for better or worse. Like for instance, I mean, one of the highlights is the fact that, you know, right before you came over, right when Ebony was coming over and we were just getting ready and stuff, I was doing my nails. So I got nails done myself. Yeah, it's cute. It's like a nice little nude with a bit of a shimmer. It's actually press-on nails. And I've been a proponent of press-ons for about a year now, but I've been still back and forth with it. And especially just being at home and having to fend for yourself in a lot of different ways. A lot of different ways. Like nails are kind of one of them for me, and I kind of got back into doing it myself, having my own little version of self-care and just like getting my own things done. And this has kind of been one of those things for me. And so now I'm getting used to longer nails again. Like the idea of just having to tap with the side of your fingers versus with your index, things of that nature. But I love it. I feel like I'm gonna be pointing all throughout this episode. I'm be like, okay, you know what, I was thinking about this and over here, this happened and that happened.
So we're gonna have a lot of hand motions going on.
I'm back in action, baby.
In the episode.
I'm back.
That's fun.
And you know, it's just a little mood booster. So I did that, and honestly, besides that and just chatting with my friends about the whole election, I've been on election anxiety the last few days. Like,
totally.
Especially on election Tuesday, I wasn't even trying to watch anything because I knew it was going to come out on Tuesday. But then afterwards, I thought surely by Wednesday we will know. Surely. And yet we didn't. And it was just, we'll get into it obviously, you know, but it was just a lot. And so this week was just, let me just get to Sunday, child. Let me just get to next week and hopefully we'll know. So it was that, and then between nails, between elections, and then just like, for me at least, the beginning of November is the beginning of thinking of going back home. I'm originally from New York, and so I'm just ready to just kind of like, I'm ready to just have a little break and go back home for the holidays and
that'll be amazing.
Doing that whole thing.
I'm sure your mom, family will be so excited.
So ready. They're so ready. And
they're like, where have you been?
Yes, and I'm ready for that entrance.
You're like, I can't have arrived.
Like, yes, I'm back.
The queen is back.
That'll last for all of probably 2 hours before it's like, all right,
enjoy it while you can.
Yes, exactly. What about you? How was your week?
Again, a lot going on. I definitely gave myself grace this week. So instead, I normally do like my Black Friday and doing this, and I was like stressed. I texted Akila. I was like, I was supposed to post on Instagram today, like just so that I have space in between what it is that I'm posting. And I posted, but then I ended up not even posting for my Black Friday. I also was supposed to have like a live interview, and I ended up it ended up getting canceled or moved. It got rescheduled, which was again fine. At first I was like, oh my gosh, like now I'm gonna have too many to do in 1 week. But I was like, it's supposed to be fun. Like this is supposed to be fun. Like social media, like at the moment, it's like I'm not getting paid for any of this stuff. So like I don't need to be taking myself like so seriously, like putting myself on like the super strict, crazy schedule. Like just go with the flow. Like things work out and ebb and flow in the way that they're supposed to. So there's that.
That's a word right then and there. Like that really is a moment of just like taking it step by step and giving yourself grace. I love it.
Yeah, and it was fine. And I was like, you know what? No one is gonna miss my Black Friday this Friday. Like nobody. I missed it. I don't think anybody really cared anyway. So it is okay. And I'm like, maybe I'll just start doing every other week instead of every week. We'll see. We'll see.
It's a process.
It's a vibe. Yeah, we'll see. The other thing was I got my nails done this week because I'm going to Vegas next weekend with my sorority sisters. We're celebrating 5 years.
Crazy.
Our Aquaversary. And so our Aquaversary is November 22nd. And we were supposed to go that weekend, but it's super close to Thanksgiving. So we ended up just moving it up. I'm really excited. It's not going to be with the whole line, but the girls that I am going with, it's going to be a good time.
It's never a dull moment.
It's fine. It's fine. It'll be a really good time. I'm really excited about it. I honestly packed. I ordered like some new outfits and this cognac colored like tight leather pleather dress that I have going on. It's short and cute, and I'm like, and I was nervous about ordering it because I was like, you just don't know. It's like the way it looks on the model. I was like, I hope it looks like that on me, like tight and it does.
Yes.
And it hugs every curve.
Okay.
Just right. Okay. So that's been my week. Like, trying to think anything else exciting. It's always hard sometimes to think about it, but that happened. And yeah, guess what, guys? The NBA. You know how I told you that I was, gonna keep up on the sports tip because my man is out there looking for me? NBA starts December 22nd, 2020, honey. I can't believe it's coming back so fast.
I'm like, we just celebrated Lakers Nation, like people winning, and now it's coming back again. I don't know.
And I wonder if they're still gonna do, I'm assuming they're still gonna do the bubble and like the whole thing, which I feel like it's hard. I don't feel like the players had enough time in between the bubble. Well, I'll say the Lakers and like the people who were actually in the finals, right? Because I feel like we just had that, and now they're going to start again, and you're going to have to be in the bubble and be away from your family, which I feel like is
over the holidays too. You said December 2nd?
December 22nd.
22nd. Oh, so like days before Christmas, the holidays, all that. I'm sure they're going to be there before the start time.
Yeah, it's like the whole schedules. I mean, I'm assuming maybe the family will also be in quarantine. Whatever. Yeah, it's a lot, but that's what's happening. But let's move on to our 2 cents, okay?
Yes.
Megan Thee Stallion versus Erica Banks. Now, if you guys don't know, Megan Thee Stallion was signed to, I'm going to try to, 1501 label record, which is Carl Crawford's label record, okay? He's a baseball player and was engaged to Evelyn Lozada, and they have a baby Leo, okay? Like, I got the whole background.
Yes.
Okay. So, he signed Megan. They had a whole dispute. I think it was like earlier in quarantine, and she ended up like leaving the label and like now is signed to Jay-Z's. Okay, so because of that, now Carl went and got Erica Banks, who legit sounds just like Megan Thee Stallion. Like, he legit just gave birth to another Megan.
That is what everyone is saying.
Everyone is saying that. She was like, this is Megan Thee Stallion's son. You guys are witnessing it.
I feel a little bit, and you know what? I'm blaming it on, one, you did definitely go ahead and said, this is a formula that works. Let's go ahead and repeat it since, my last artist, flee the factory. But this one, I kind of want to say like half is that, and half is like, this is Houston. I feel like this is their culture. This is their accent. Sound. This is their sound. Like, I think that's just what's gonna happen. It's like getting 2 LA rappers. You know, like Nipsey probably sounded a lot like, who's another LA rapper? I couldn't even tell you, but a lot of other people.
She's from New York.
Right. I'm like, a lot of them sound the same because that's just their vibe. Like, and I think that's the same thing that you're gonna get out of Houston. 2 female Houston drappers. They gonna sound very similar. I'm not gonna fully say like homegirl didn't see that Megan is working, and that the label didn't see Megan is working.
She
Let's
sounds
figure it out.
very, like, honestly, if you close your eyes and listen to the 2, like, they sound very, like, it's the
ad-libs too, and the cadence.
It's the cadence and how she raps. It sounds just like Megan. I'm not gonna lie, like it does. But guess what? I'm also not hating on it because I like it. I'm not gonna lie, like, I do kind of like Erica Banks. And the thing is that if no one was having this comparison, no one would even know who she is.
No one would know.
I still don't even know if she... No, listen, again, I haven't listened to any of her songs. So I don't know if they're on iTunes or Spotify or whatever. I don't know. But
I just see it on clips on the Shade Room.
All I see is the Shade Room, but she's getting a lot of clout from it, is my point.
Yes.
So clearly whatever is going on is working for her. And more power to you, boo.
There it is.
But I just think the whole battle thing, and I'm just like, maybe it's not even really a versus. You get what I'm saying? Like, maybe this is just the internet blowing smoke to make it something that maybe it's really not.
But maybe, like, because the thing is, you would never fully know, because Well, I would hope. I haven't seen it, but I would hope Megan is not responding to this at all. And I think because she's not responding, that's the only reason why we're still in this delusion of, is it an issue, is it not? Because I don't think she should. I don't think she should put any sort of energy or clout behind this message or what's happening. But I know Erica's obviously trying to defend herself because she's the one in question being claimed like, all right, you don't even have a unique sound. Which is like, it's doing nothing but helping her try to prove herself. But I know they both did this remix, right?
Yes,
Thick. What was the song?
Thick.
I ain't gonna lie, that clip from Erica, I felt like was it. I felt like that was it, you know?
Maybe I just have like a die-hard loyalty to Meg, but I was feeling Megan's.
Okay.
Hashtag Team Megan the Stallion.
I'm always Team Megan too. I hear you, but that probably I need to hear the full version. But the clips that they showed, I was like, no, Erica ate. Like
Maybe I need to go back and listen to that again.
I thought it was just next level. Not next level, you know, in terms of how great can you go rapping on thick? But like what's I'm not really gonna call you a lyricist, but at the same time, I feel like she had more of a beat, had more of a bounce to it, had more of a vibe than I thought Megan did, and that's
I'm gonna listen to that again.
I'm still you know,
I'm gonna click rewind,
right?
Press play.
Still all for the H Down Hottie, all for Tina Snow, but I do think Erica.
She did that.
She did that.
Okay.
She did that. I can't deny it.
That's what I'm saying. Like they're both great, you know, great female rappers doing great things.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe it doesn't need to be a battle, y'all. Like maybe we could just enjoy what their work is for what it is and just keep it pushing.
Yes.
Speaking of keeping it pushing, Ebony Kate Williams is gonna be pushing herself all up on the New York Housewives.
Come on.
As the first black woman. So she's really the first person to diversify the cast since the inception of the show.
So crazy.
Which is insane that we're still, I mean, obviously we always say this, right? Like the first in 2020, right? I think that's still crazy.
Yeah.
And what do you think, Akila, tell me, what do you think about the diversity of a New York housewife? Like, do you think it's necessary? Do we need it? Do we care?
The thing, well, one, I honestly can't say I super care about it because I think for something like New York Housewives, I love it, like honestly, but its inception and what it's about is like kind of Upper East Side living, things of that nature. Born and raised in New York, that wasn't necessarily black folks. That just wasn't what it was. And for me, it's not like I have to watch a show. I would love if every show somehow represented me and somehow represented the people that I am about.
Right.
But that's not to say every show needs that in order to make a show work. And I think this is one of those shows that I don't think it necessarily needed that. I'm totally like, Ebony, go on it, get your coins. I feel like you're gonna add value just by nature of her being an influential and just, you know, amazing person to listen to in general. But to say that the Housewives of New York, I'm not super sold that the show would need it as much as, let's say, what's her name, Gabrielle Bouffaz, like on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, where I'm like, yeah, it needed something to spice this up. It's not, Beverly Hills doesn't have to be synonymous with these women. And I think New York, yeah, I mean, New York is a very diverse place, and it should be, you know, reflective in the cast, but I think it was reflective in some sense in thought. Like Sonia Morgan, even though she's rich and everything, I feel like she added such a comedic relief, such like funness, everything to the Real Housewives of New York franchise. Yes. I absolutely like love her.
You love Sonia?
Love Sonia. I love Sonia Morgan. She's probably one of my favorite New York Housewives. Period.
Is it Sutton? Isn't she on there? Or
oh no, that's Beverly Hills. And so yeah, Sutton is a different case, but she's cute. She's nice, but she's real Southern. I know Sutton energy. Like, but that's what it is. But in New York, Sonia Morgan, she's hilarious. And more recently, who joined she's younger, she has like Mob Life, that clothing brand. She's like, who? The clothing brand.
I do not keep up with New York. Like my housewife is Atlanta.
Oh, Atlanta's great.
And Potomac.
Okay, so you all black, everything.
And you know what it is. You already know what it is. I find them more interesting. I find the storylines to be better. I mean, I think Potomac got canceled though.
No, Potomac just got real fresh this season. Like,
no, but I'm saying I think this is the last season of Potomac.
That wouldn't make any sense. Really?
Google it. I'm telling you, it is. I think it's the last season of Potomac.
This is the season where it's actually got spicy.
I know. I agree. That's what I'm saying. But I'm excited for the new Atlanta Housewives because I know that's about to be fire. But back to New York. Sorry.
Okay. Well, we'll have to. And if you know the answer to that, we'll have to follow up with whether or not it's ending. What? This doesn't make any sense.
It is.
It's not coming. It's not coming up. It's not coming up in the vlogs.
Okay, she's questioning questioning my fact checking. It's fine. But I would say that for New York, I'm excited to see Ebony on there. She's like a host. She actually was at AfterBuzz TV.
Yeah,
and then she went on to be this like amazing journalist. And so I'm excited to see what her life is like and to have like that representation for New York. Like you said, it is a very diverse state, and it should reflect that. But at the same time, for me, I do agree. Like there are some shows where I'm like, we could just leave that to the white people. And,
and I could just watch and be fine. But I'm like, we'll see. Because I think another thing too, they just needed a younger cast also. Because I feel like they're kind of aging up. A lot of the folks who are there, I don't know if they're in their 50s, 60s or whatever, like Ramona, like Luann, DeSeps, like, you know, who else is it? Dorinda is officially out this next upcoming season. But like, they need younger folks, so I get it. And someone else to balance, I keep forgetting her name. Mob Life. She was on here this past, I could tell you everything about her. She actually used to co-host with Angela Yee, I think on her lip service thing as well, or some other thing that she did. Oh, okay. She was on it too. So you could, we're gonna, but she's into it. And I think it's one of those things where I think Ebony's gonna help bring someone else.
I see that.
Bring someone else.
They need diversity and they need age.
They need age. So and it's kind of like, all right, let's bring a woman in here, a black woman in here that's going to shake things up. I think Ebony's originally from Charlotte too. So I'm just curious. I'm curious how this is going to
I just hope that they don't make her the villain. You get me?
Or either the villain or someone who's just there to talk about race, politics, things of that nature. We need it. I'm always here for that discussion. But her not originally being from New York, her not necessarily, I don't see the connection with the groups. I'm wondering if this is just a plug and play versus someone who really would understand what it is like to be, you know, in New York living their life. Like, you know,
I guess we'll see. We'll have to.
I'm excited for her though, for the same reason you said. So I'm like,
well, you're the one who's really all into it. So I'm gonna let you do the updates on the New York Housewives. I got Atlanta.
You got it. Exactly. Balance.
But to move on, we wanted to also shout out and kind of give condolences to the baby, aka Baby Jesus.
Oh wow.
I kind of like that nickname. But he recently lost his older brother to suicide like last week. Yeah. And I think that is so powerful that he shared it. And I think that's sad. And he said that on the video, he kind of was saying that he felt like his brother felt like he couldn't reach out. And he was like, I'm always there for my people. And, you know, he was like doing prayers over his family. Like, God, take care of them. I'm good, but like take care of them type thing. I think that is so sad to know that like your brother, first of all, your brother is the baby, right? And you felt like you couldn't reach out or to touch him or to have someone to, I don't know, like be there for you.
It's kind of one of those situations that makes you see in terms of like, you just understand so much more. Like money cannot buy happiness. Like money cannot buy peace. Like there's so many things that are happening. You never know what the next person is going through. You never know what someone else in your family might be going through. Or even if you know, you probably just know the surface. And it's hard to tap into someone who doesn't want to be tapped into.
The demons are real.
The demons are real. And it's hard to just, you know, I can only imagine. Homeboy already been rapping about his, you know, almost losing his daughter. So I can only imagine the type of pain that he's going through with actually losing his brother. Like, I think he tweeted like wanting to seek mental health, like a therapist.
Right.
Which I'm amazing. Listen, go for it. Because I think it's one of those things where I'm glad he's talking about it. Like you said, I'm glad he's being open about it. And it's one of those situations that I can't even imagine to begin to even process.
But I love that he tweeted about going to see a therapist because I think in the Black community there's such a stigma about like going to a therapist or seeing a therapist like you're crazy or you don't need that or what do you need to go do that for, right?
I feel like it's starting to change, but I think it's still
but you know what?
So much
someone
deeper.
that I was talking to actually just told me that last night was like I was like, oh my gosh, because I see a therapist that's only been like 4 sessions, right? So it's still like new and I feel like we have 1 hour and I'm like trying to download her on like every single thing that's going on in my life so that she could at least give me like some type of feedback, but it's like a slow process, right? Because you have to do the build up and like build that relationship. But he was like, oh my gosh, what do you need a therapist for? Talk to me. I'm like, nah, it don't work like that. It's not the same.
And you know, it's one of those things too. Like I was talking to a friend who she said she would never, like her man has to seek therapy. Like she would never date a guy who's not seeing a therapist. And at first I was like, whoa, really? Like that much of a distinction? But now I get it in the sense of like, I think just the historical standpoint of women, the women that you're with, especially Black women, being the ones that have to listen in to what you're going through, and it shouldn't be the onus of the person that you're in a relationship with to deal with that. And now I get it.
It's not always like it's an inside thing, right?
Yeah.
So like if you're going through something or had been through trauma in the past and you haven't dealt with it properly, you're now projecting that into your relationship.
Yes.
So if you're not getting that figured out before you get into it, that makes sense, because I would understand why she would want someone who's seeking therapy, because now you can be a better person to me.
Right.
You can understand your demons and understand how you handle situations like, oh, I'm very argumentative. But why?
Why?
You know what I'm saying? And those are things that you can like figure out and seek out in therapy, or with the baby, just to have that, like, I'm really having a hard time today. Like, I need someone to just listen to me who's bipartisan, that does not have any like knowledge of past anything. You just know what I'm telling you, where you can give me comfort in what it is that I'm feeling and validation.
And some people,
because other people, when you talk to your friends, they have their own opinions about what it is that you're going through.
That's filtered through their own background too, and their own experiences.
And it's hard to really get a full understanding
of opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think also on the flip side, some people really relish or love the idea of being that person to give advice, that person to like.
But if it's not good advice, that's the problem.
It is a problem.
That's the problem.
But at the same time, I wonder if in their family dynamic, I don't know, was the baby that person, or was someone else in that family that person that they felt like they can go to in a sense, or was the person, was his brother actually in a sense that person in a way that he was trapping his own demons because he was helping. You never know. You never know. And so I think that's one of those situations too. It just makes this. It also always makes suicide such a dark, a heavy, a burdensome thing, because you're thinking through what else could I have done?
That is the spiral right there, which I think it's amazing. That's why the baby, I applaud him for seeking therapy and wanting to do that, and putting it out there that he's doing that, because he's put out there the persona of being such a tough guy. So you see him seeking therapy. I think it's a very powerful move.
Yeah.
I want to move on to the next powerful move, which was the election of 2020.
Yes.
You guys, we did it. Biden, Harris, all up in the house,
yes,
y'all.
Our Sora is in the White House. Okay. You knew we were gonna act up. You knew.
The AKAs are about to be on another level.
On your necks, okay?
We're gonna be so annoying.
Come on, January.
For the next 4 years,
literally, and beyond. Because at the end of the day, this is history. Again,
history.
This is history.
We just made history
of being the first. Again.
Another first. I have to say, I am so excited about the fact that I was nervous.
Yes.
I was pressed.
Oh my
and
God.
I felt like I did not know if we were going to be able to do that. Right. I had no idea. How did you feel?
I felt like America showed its ass on Tuesday. I felt like when Tuesday came and I saw
all the red states,
I was like, you just tell me where to fly over when I gotta go where I need to go. You're telling me never make a long weekend stay at any of these places, never do any of that. And I just felt like I was so on edge. I was literally so on edge. It's one of those things where you think it's a no-brainer, but that's what I thought in 2016. And
girl,
you know what I mean? So it's kind of one of those situations where now I was just kind of like, let it be known, like, we need to, and I'm saying we as Democrats, but really we as a society need to really take onus and see what is the issue, because people are not being heard. People are feeling like they're counted out, and it can't strictly be racism. And I'm like, there's something else, because there were a lot of blacks for Trump, there were a lot of Cubanos for Trump, there were a lot of Latinos for Trump, there are a lot of
makes no sense.
I'm like, you can't, you're not seeing something.
It's a class situation where people are voting for their money. You know what I'm saying? They're voting for something. So someone was talking to me and was like, for business, Trump is a good option. This is what they said. That's not what I said. This is what they said. Okay. Trump is a good option for business because you're able to go and get a business loan with a 3% interest. That's not a normal. Normally it's 20%, 19%, whatever. 3% interest. You get what I'm saying? So they're like, for business, he's good for that because he makes a lot of cuts when it comes to money. Right? So if you are someone who is a millionaire or, making well over 6 figures, maybe your tax bracket is going to be different because Trump cut the taxes for rich people, right? So that's probably what you're voting for.
But it's like a lot of people who weren't rich were voting for this man. I'm like, I know we're in a country that dreamers are very much revered, being wanting to get to that level and thinking everyone has an equal playing field to get to that level is the notion, but it's not the truth. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, what are you really, you're voting on aspirations that you could not even achieve right at this level
so
while he was there. So I don't really understand it. And I think there's other things too that are happening that honestly, I'm not at liberty to really say that this is the reason or that is the reason, or the background to say the political mindset to say this is what happened. But all I know is on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday, I was literally like, oh my goodness. I was so on edge, and I was just thinking to myself, like, we were talking even on our own page, like, okay, what should we put? I said, we cannot, like, it's got to be election only. Because I was like, we can't do anything.
We don't want to
else.
be like tone deaf on the fact of like there's something serious going on in the country, and we don't want to be talking about something so irrelevant.
Right. But it's just, I don't know. And I think finally getting to the stage, and yes, we're talking about the fact that it got to this level, but now we got to think of all of America. And I love that Biden really emphasized that he is really going to be for all of America, because you have to.
So.
You have to. And
honestly, pink today, actually, thinking about it, you were green, and I should have had pink on.
You know what?
There we go. Akila has this little pink flamingo.
Why I that, but
little piggy bank. I'm gonna hold her for the rest of the show because we need to represent the pink and the green.
There it is.
In the episode.
There's been so many times. On the 8th episode, we didn't do this.
I know. Okay, next episode we're wearing pink and green. It's done.
It's
I'm
done.
over it.
Actually,
for the rest of the year, we're wearing pink and green because we clearly need to show up and show
show out. Literally. But it was great. And obviously yesterday, today, we're recording, we're posting tomorrow, but it's kind of one of those situations where, Biden and Harris had their official, I don't know if is it their acceptance speech in a sense? Acceptance speech, of being president and vice president elect. And
okay, so then, but then Biden, when he came out, he literally was running.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, energy.
He had all the energy.
Okay, energy.
And you know it's harder to run when you got that mask on too? At least for me.
Okay,
I'm like,
he's also old. Okay, I was like, don't break a hip now, Biden. Slow down.
We need you.
Right, we need you to be healthy. Right? Okay, you got 4 years in the White House now. Come on, get it together. Okay, but I was also thinking too, like, America is just like such an interesting place because I feel like we just don't know what it is that we want. Like, we are such flip-floppers when it comes to elections. So like we went from like Bush, right? Now everyone hated him. It was that meme that was like, how does it feel to not be the most hated president in the United States anymore? Because now it's Trump, right? Everyone's like, oh, we want Bush back. Like, I'd actually rather Bush than Trump, right? So we went from Bush and everyone was hating him to Obama, right? Like, what a swing.
Right.
And then from Obama to Trump, which is like all the way on the other side. And now we're back to Biden. So it's like every 4 years, like, people are coming out in like record numbers to swing the vote one way or the other. And it's insane. And I was like, because in the last election, 2016, I was like, what? Where do all these people come from that are voting for this crazy man? Like, I'm so confused. Like, where did all these people come from? And then like this year, I'm like, all the black people, all the black women,
obviously,
we came up
time and time again,
showed out as per usual, you guys.
You know what? And that makes sense to why, again, in his acceptance speech, he literally, I think was probably even the first, I don't even know if Obama mentioned it like as explicitly as Biden did, the idea of kind of racism, institutionalized racism, and that he's really you guys have showed up for me and I'm gonna show up for you. He literally said that in a way that I was just like, finally. Finally someone is acknowledging the fact that it exists, one, because that's been obviously a debate, which is, weird. It's kind of like when people are debating climate change, like, what are you talking about? And also the idea of I'm going to show up and making that plain because the power of the black vote. And I think the reason too, kind of going back with what you're saying in terms of the back and forth and the switch, is obviously people do, and that's kind of just in some state in some states it's a response to the political environment of the day. Like, people feel like they're not being heard, they come out more. And also I think it's also a reflection of what has been told and taught to us when it comes to being able to vote and what happens with voting. Like, I remember 2016, it's been it was finally brought to the main stage, the idea of the Electoral College. Like, beforehand, it has always existed.
Right.
It has always existed. And yet, for some reason, 2016 and seeing Hillary Clinton lose, even though she had the popular vote, made people really think, like, what the hell is going on with this election? And people finally were able to show and educate the idea, like,
don't you feel like
it's the Electoral College?
Since 2016, I'd have to say since Trump, people have been paying more attention to politics.
Completely.
I've never been someone who's like into politics,
Right.
but now I'm like, I have to be paying attention.
Completely.
This
agree
election,
with that.
it's like everyone is now so on top of local voting. I mean, the amount of campaigns that we saw for voting this year have been insane. I mean, numbers that I can't even, I don't have. But
and people taking more of an interest in other people's states' local elections, which is also different. Well,
yes.
There's a debate too in terms of financing and who's really behind it to make it more known. But I don't know if it's a factor of us just being older and being more like aware. But I think it's also the idea of like, if anything I had to thank Trump for, I think he brought to light a lot of the gaps and a lot of the faults in our
and
democracy.
what we thought
was conventional and what we thought just had to be that way. He challenged it in a way that I think a lot of his base respected, and a way that I think a lot of people who aren't in his base had to just face facts, like, listen, what do we really want and how do we really need to get the message across? Because why was now that all of a sudden it was very much a pertinent part of the election strategy to talk about mail-in ballots and the fact that you can mail in your votes before the election. Like, this wasn't as much, obviously people knew in some states that you can, but it wasn't as much of a focal point as it was now, because you knew, as Democrats knew, like, more people who could mail in, obviously would increase the numbers of Democrats who could vote. But, it's one of those things that if it was always allowed, or if it could have always been allowed, why was this the first time that it was made done? So, like, it makes
it was
me
the coronavirus, right? Like, that's the excuse.
Exactly the excuse that they put, but it wasn't actually the reason. It wasn't actually
because
it's something
happened that could have happened before.
It could have happened before.
Yeah, I want to play this clip. I want to play this clip from Impact Magazine. They were interviewing this lady at the rally last night, right, or celebrating the thing, and this is what she said.
Why was it important? A lot of people out here to celebrate, they're just telling me that they wanted to be part of this event tonight. Why did you want to be here tonight in particular?
Because I was here in 2008, I was here in 2012, and I thought it was just important as a part of the democracy. I feel like as though, a lot of people are thanking these swing states for putting us in this position, but I wanted to highlight that we not only have to thank Michigan, but we need to mostly thank Detroit. We shouldn't just thank Georgia, but we should thank Atlanta. We shouldn't just thank Pennsylvania, but we need to thank Philly. Those are majority black cities. And so it's black people who put us in this position of a celebratory mood.
Nicole, thank you so much for talking to us.
Okay.
It is black people that put us in a celebratory mood.
Yes,
Come on.
100%.
Come on.
Black people were out here voting. Black people came and showed out, and that's where
That's the end all be all, and that's why we could celebrate having a
But that's
vice
why
president-elect.
that's why it's important for the black vote to be counted. Okay,
Yeah.
I want to talk about voter suppression. Now, over the weekend, I watched something on Netflix. Now, Netflix is my bestie, and it's also a very great educational tool, or it can be, right?
Yeah.
So there's this series called Explained. So they have like sex explained, food industry explained. This one was voting explained. And what it talked about, it in 25 minutes, you guys, it literally gives you an entire history lesson on what it was like and how it's been throughout since the 1700s to 2020, and how they try to suppress the black vote. Okay, why are you so afraid of black vote if voting doesn't really matter? If voting is supposed to be a right and everyone can do it, why are you trying to suppress the black vote? Because you already know that at the end of the day, we're not going to be voting for you, because you know that your policies are trash and they don't benefit anybody but the white man. So that's why you try to suppress the black vote. I want to read off some facts. But before that, I just also wanted to say that the recreational marijuana was passed in Arizona, Montana, New Jersey, and South Dakota, bringing the total states that it's legal to 15.
Yeah,
which I think is great.
There's a lot of other things that happened in this election, obviously, besides having the presidency. She mentioned like kind of legalizing marijuana in a multitude of states. Also,
The
Sarah
Senate.
McBride becoming the first transgender state senator for Delaware, and really bypassing incumbent Republican, I forget his name, but Harris McDowell. And so Sarah McBride, go her as well. A lot of different things have happened.
And it's great to see the change. We see, our our Senate is looking younger. There's people that are in there fighting for us, and we love to see that too. So, you know, a lot of people of color got reelected in this election as well. So we are very excited in 2020.
Yes.
The one positive thing that has happened during 2020, amen.
Yes.
Okay. But to go back to the voter suppression, so they were saying in 1776, voters' privilege, it was really an argument. Like, is it a right or is it a privilege, right? And so in New Jersey, they were saying, now this is early years. They said if you have enough money and own some property, you can vote, right?
Yeah.
So that means women could vote. That means free African Americans that were not slaves who had property could vote, okay? And 30 years later, because of the fact that there was voters fraud, right? So now we're hearing this term voting fraud, where men supposedly were dressing up as women to cast an extra vote and whatever. They decided, you know what? So instead of fixing that problem and doing something else, they just said,
let's just slash it all.
Slash it all. No women and no black man is allowed to vote. Okay. They also had non-citizens voting, and that was also legal. And then they changed that.
Yeah.
Just to even go through a little other things, you had in the 1800s, black men could vote, but then good old Florida. We love a good Floridian, okay? Good old Florida passed the law to where felons were not allowed to vote. And obviously, now, who is that affecting the most? Because who are we suppressing? The black man, right? We're criminalizing them. People who were just getting out of slavery.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they don't, so then they were like, well, here are exceptions to the rules. If your grandfather voted, you could vote. First generation out of slavery, no grandfather
could vote.
Nobody.
Right.
Nobody. Okay, they had literacy tests that they were trying to put you through. And the question on one of the tests said, how high is up? Now,
ridiculous.
That leaves up for interpretation. So basically anything you say is wrong.
Right.
Okay? And then in 1940, 3% of blacks in the South could vote.
Yeah.
3%.
Yeah.
3%. So there's...
And they say 3% could vote. Who actually made it to the polls? Because we know what was happening in Jim Crow South around that time too, about like getting folks to do anything.
Right.
You know, to exercise a little bit of power was deemed irresponsible.
Absolutely. And so this is just a tell-all time of the fact that I didn't really understand, right?
Yeah.
What it meant for voter suppression and like not counting the black vote and whose vote counts. And I was like, I don't understand. Don't you just mail in your ballot and then it counts? Like, I don't understand. But after watching this like mini series documentary, I was like, whoa, like mind blown, eye-opening. Like I said in another episode, I'm still like learning a lot of like my own black history, right? Because it was never taught to me in school or whatever. So to hear this and to listen to it, shocked. How did you feel?
I mean,
I made her watch it.
Yes, and thank you for that, because honestly, first of all, same like you, I love a good documentary, I love a good history lesson when I can fit one in type of thing, and I thought like when I was listening to this, it's one of those situations where you just think to yourself like, how I'm thinking of current day too, like how much longer is something like this going on? How much, how prevalent was it there? Like it was so much more in your face because it was an all or nothing thing.
Right.
But it's happening today. It's happening today in some sort of factor. The fact that California, I think also that happened in this re-election, that, California passed the law that now, or the proposition that now made felons, I think, and I don't know what kind of hoops they even have to pass through, but felons now have the right to vote. So little things like that where I'm like, okay, we're talking about 100+ years ago that this was suppressed, and then we kind of overturned it, brought it back, came back, and
but it's like a reoccurring thing that keeps
reoccurring
happening, because they also mentioned that they did pass a thing where like felons could vote, but
in
then
Florida,
they were like, oh no, now you have to pay all your fees back.
You got to pay all your fees back, or you have to go in front of this governor, and they'd be the one to decide yes or no, and he was just saying no. So it's kind of one of those things like, no one man should have all that power. Shouts to Kanye, but also the fact that it's so much. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And then you question why people give up. you question why. And people shouldn't, obviously. It's like, fight for your rights and fight for it indefinitely. But I would actually understand too why people who are disenfranchised just start to say, like, you know what, let me just focus on my little bubble and what I can do in my little area, some sort of tangible change, versus fighting for your rights and recognizing that, no, this matters. And if it didn't matter that much, people would not give a damn about giving you the right to vote, period. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so it just, I don't know. It makes me think, like, yes, I need to know so much more, but it also makes me that much more pressed to just be so much more involved in what's happening locally, because I think in terms of my little bubble, that's where you can really make changes, and that's where I think you can really enact it or bring people who have your same ideals, and it'll bubble up slowly to the top. So,
and you know what else is, for me, shocking, is even knowing and hearing all of these facts, right? That people still question whether or not there's systemic racism.
Yeah.
People still question or don't understand why why people are fighting for, like, equal rights, right? People are like, I don't see color, and blah blah blah, and it's like, no, you need to see it. And not only do you need to see it, you need to be paying attention, because it's plain in black and white, and it's all through the history books. Because you choose not to really, like, see it or hear it or listen to it, that doesn't mean it's not there. You know, like, these are facts that they are trying to keep the black vote out of the election.
Black, like any sort of votes that do not look like the quote-unquote status quo, because the status quo has even changed, you know, but to look like the status quo of the past, you know, you just want to get them away.
What are we afraid of? Like, Mike, this is the big question for me. I'm like, what are we afraid of, old white man? What are we afraid? I'm genuinely trying to figure out if everyone had the right to vote, and if we were always doing these mail-in ballots and whatever.
Because you know you're acting shady, and you know you're doing things that shouldn't be done, and so
you don't want people to be held accountable.
You don't want to be held accountable, and you don't want change because you feel like giving even an inch right now, you know, later on people are gonna ask for another one and another one. But it's like, oh my gosh, God forbid other people got a chance. God forbid.
Right.
I think another thing from this whole series was the idea of now, like, super PACs I learned a ton of that from the 2016 election. And again, like, you know, people are slowly letting you into things when they feel like it's convenient for one party or the other. So I blame both sides. Like, because I think people are, you know, when you talk about gerrymandering in the thing as well, like, you know, Democrats were doing it, Republicans were doing it, you know? So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, you see all around you, and it just makes you think to your own history. Because I remember in high school, like, they talked also about the Koch brothers and how they're very much like oil, gas, like tycoons type of thing. Like, one has passed away recently, but they created a building in my school, like, literally everything like that, like, you know, donated so much, all of that. I remember they came to visit, like, literally, like, helicopters you could hear overhead, and I was like, who are these people? You know, it's one of those things where you don't even recognize what's going on and who is influencing every little aspect of your life.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things like, wow, like, we accepted money from these folks in exchange for what? Like, what was going on here? You know what I mean? And that's
questions that need answers.
Questions that need answers. And that's at an independent school, so I could only imagine, you know, who else they had their toes in or whatever, and to make sure that what they wanted and what they expected really stayed the same, and at whose cost, at whose expense. And it's one of those things I would never fully know. I would never fully know.
Is the whole cap on politics right there.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's benefiting one side or the other, but never fully America. Like, it's a democracy, but really it's not. But really it's not.
Right.
It's a democracy, but really it's not. Because at the end of the day, no one's perfect. And no one's policies are going to be perfect or benefiting every single person on the face of this planet. Like, that's never going to happen. So I think that's a super high expectation. And you vote for what is going to be the best for right now
and for what happened. And that's the thing too. And I think if it's a true democracy, it's also a recognition that things are going to change. What has worked for the forefathers or the founding fathers and what they put into place, I don't think they knew that 200 whatever years later, that should not be all the same. And yet we are holding on to the same ideals because it works for one party and perhaps not the other. And it's more so like, let's just take an honest look of how America looks right now, and then just act accordingly. Like, stop acting up. Y'all are too old for this. Y'all are too grown for this. And you were acting up. Like,
Petty Betty started in the White House. Okay, it started in Congress. Okay. Speaking of the mail-in ballots, though, I did want to state this one fact because I thought it was super interesting. So the election rules have changed. So California, Oregon, Colorado, Nevada, Utah, Washington State, and New Jersey, and Vermont, they automatically send you a ballot. So if you are a resident in that state, you automatically get sent a ballot, right? In other states, you have to apply for a mail-in ballot, okay? In Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Indiana, Tennessee, you need an excuse to vote by mail, okay? And coronavirus this year was not apparently a good enough excuse, okay? So they wanted you to come up with some other reason as to why you needed to mail in your ballot. Now, at the end of this documentary, it states ideas of how we could equal out the opportunity to vote, right? So one, they were saying that other countries have voting on the weekends, not on a Tuesday, not during the week when people have to work, okay? What was another thing? Do you remember?
I don't know. They said that. They said, what else?
It was weekend. It was also, they have a mandate in some other countries.
Right, where it's your duty.
It is your duty to vote. It's not an option. It's jury duty. You have to vote.
You have to vote. And also the idea of voter registration is automatic versus why do you have to apply in order to get the option to then vote versus you're a citizen, you're here. It is automatic. You have it automatically. I think North Dakota is the only place here where it's automatic. Everywhere else, it's you have to register to vote. What is that? Why are we registering to vote? This doesn't make any sense. But yeah, there's that as well. Yeah, those are the three, I think, main things. There are probably other things that they said as well. I mean, it's honestly a great recommendation. I say check it out.
Great recommendation. I think you guys should watch the doc. What do you think about that, though? If everyone just got a mail-in ballot, do you think that it would lean more towards one or the other? Or do you think it would still be an equal race?
I don't think that's really the core issue. I feel one, yes, everyone should have an automatic right to vote or an automatic way to just go ahead and vote, mail it in, whatever you need to do. I don't think it will tip one way or the other. I think what's really the issue is more so these electoral colleges. What is that? What is that? Literally. And I also think the idea of certain states, and I've always been kind of confused as to why certain states are considered more battleground, are considered more, paying more attention to than others versus, and it's probably perhaps my own bias knowing that I've always lived in a city, I've always grown up in the city, and I'm why does random New Hampshire have more of a count and more of a say in who, each person there have more of a say in what their vote means versus me in this heavily populated, heavily dense city? What is that really, what are you really saying? Because another thing is the type of people who inhabit those areas. Who lives in Vermont? Not a lot of people that looks like me, not a lot of people with my ideals versus who lives in, general Michigan. We're not talking Detroit here, but New Hampshire, Vermont, things of that nature where folks time and time again have spent weeks, have gone to campaign, Wisconsin, versus some of these other places where is very much populated by folks who are not white, who are not older, who are not, you know what I mean?
And they have less power.
Less power. And I'm why do we have less power because of that? And I think we obviously self-selected ourselves being in all these dense cities, but it's because the opportunities were there, it's because family are there, it's because, more equality and a lot of different reasons versus all these places. But that's more my issue versus registering to vote.
Sense.
I'm more so what is the issue here and why does your vote mean 5 or 10 times more
why can
than
we
my
not
vote?
just have the popular vote and call that a day?
Yeah, it is what it is. I feel political strategists, you have a daunting task ahead of you because I think there are a lot of things that need to happen, hopefully in my lifetime, to make this a little more equitable. And if it always means that Republicans win, for instance, or always means, or hopefully a rise of a third party, independence actually means something, then probably that's what it means. But I think as long as it's a little more fair, I would feel a little more inclined to be okay, perhaps this is not my country because perhaps the ideals don't really match me versus thinking that time and time again my vote means 1/10 of someone in Michigan. What?
Yeah, and maybe that's why people feel they can't vote. But what y'all can vote on? Go on and tell them what they can vote on, girl.
You can't vote to watch this show week after week. Guys, we really work hard to do this show and we want you guys to enjoy it time and time again. The way that you can repay us is to just simply share the show show, share the Black Creators Club with a friend, subscribe to our YouTube page at the Black Creators Club, or on Apple and Spotify podcasts, again, at the Black Creators Club. When you do, please comment on the show. Please rate the show. We will read fan shoutouts on air, so if you want to comment on our pages, if you want to email us at theblackcreatorsclub@gmail.com, you know, if you have any questions or even cool news items that we may have missed, let us know. This is a community. We're talking to you. We're talking for you. We're talking about you. You know, if you're doing something scandalous. But regardless, we want this to be a show that we all are a part of. And so again, at the Black Creators Club, let's build this together.
Yes.
Yay.
Girl, you done said that all the way at the Black Creators Club. Okay, I don't know if y'all missed it. We're at the Black Creators Club. Okay.
I'm gonna just have a sign from now on. Like, literally.
I love it. Oh my gosh, you guys, this has been like such a fun, packed show. I know there was so much that we talked about. There were so many like topics and facts. You know, this election was amazing, and there's no Black excellence in news today because we have a VP who is a Black woman and soror in the White House, and I think that's all the Black excellence news we need this week. Okay,
come on.
Okay. But we appreciate you guys listening and tuning in. And Akilah, where can they find you on social?
You can find me everywhere. If I'm your best friend, find me at Akilah Friend with 2 F's, mainly on Instagram, but you know, ever is the same, at Akilah Friend.
What about you, Ebony? And I am the same on all social medias, Ebony Chapman 12, and we will see you guys next week.
Yay!